He's the professor of Carroll and Douglas Melamed Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering and Material Science at Yale University. And he also serves as the founding director of the Center for Materials Innovation. And his research specializes in materials innovation, device integration, advanced manufacturing, electrified ultra-high temperature synthesis, next-generation energy storage beyond lithium-ion and novel wood technologies. He has many publications, and he's getting a lot of attention with his science and nature pictures recently. I'll just leave the stage to him and hear from him. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the nice introduction. So I do have a lot of slides, so I will go relatively quickly. So I will focus on nano-engineered wood. Is a very big topic. So my training is actually physics and on carbon nanotubes. I got to know this material because of a last workbook here. So it has been many years. I was in Stanford doing my postdoc right after my industry experience. So I try to integrate nanoscience and technologies with a focus on new technologies that is also scalable to make an impact in the real world. I work very closely, with DOE funding agency because they have the especially ARPA-E. So as Soidan just mentioned, actually I'm a faculty at the electrical engineering and now also part of the material science. So I work a lot on electrons and using electron to heat materials. And again, here my group invented two platforms. One is ultra high temperature that is up to 3,000 degrees C. So now you can think about how to burn wood and treat the wood, make it black wood, even all the way to graphite, right? So because of the electron, it's very different with combustion using gas. You can turn it on and off very quickly. You can move the electron around very fast. So that really provide a lot of opportunities in addition to this whole trend of electrification. Right, so electron is going to be used a lot. It's going to flowing around. Here you can use this for getting to a temperature of 3,000. So about 2 years ago, my group actually studied the process. So that is a plasma. So that actually allows us to go to 8,000 degrees C. So if you're interested in seeing my lab today or tomorrow, let me know. And I took last workbook over there we take some nice photo together. So this allows you to convert wood into graphite in 1 second. And you can convert them into carbon nanotubes if you want, if you control the gradient. My second research area is really about the batteries. I was trained and I was hired actually because of my battery research in Maryland. In this case, you are playing with electron and the ions is the coupling that allows you to make the so-called electrochemical devices, right? And my interest is really about how to turn materials into a super ion conductor. Because when you move electron, ion is the problem. It's the slow charge species in your device. So, for example, I work on nanocellulose, how to convert nanocellulose into a highway for ion transport. So now, I'm going to talk about the wood, and this is something that I didn't anticipate before until I was funded by Air Force and then started to work on lightweight materials and then start to try to figure out how to align the fibers into structural materials. And eventually we come to this point of using wood with fibers that are all aligned. So I'm going to give you a kind of overview about my research. I think for some of you, most of you are very familiar with wood, but I think for some of you, you may not be familiar. So this is an introduction slide to myself when I get into the field. Wood is an astrobic material with a lot of complications here, but to the end, to material people like myself, I'm only interested in these nanofibers. and we even try to remove the lignin because they are in the way. And but that's kind of the initial idea. But now people also think about how to utilize the lignin as the glue, and how to, Sheldon talked about how to treat the wood in different ways. And so this material has a material is called nanofibers. The diameter is very similar to carbon nanotubes. And you don't have to synthesize this material. Nature already produced this material for you, but you do need to process it, right? And so typically there are two ways of using the fibers. And you either completely separate them apart, and then you bottom build up, right? Build up from the bottom up. So in that case, you have the freedom to produce into any shapes and size. I think Soy down here, he's leading a very big center using 3D printing, using composite approach. But the other approach is really about take wood as a wood and do everything inside the wood. The goal is not to destruct the wood structure as Sheldon just talked about, and the goal is to really utilize the fibers inside the structure, right? So, and I think the potential advantage of using wood as a structure material, but using a nanoscale fibers as the performance enhancer, you focus on the nanofiber. In that way, you may be able to address some of the manufacturing challenges. So, I mean, the goal, if you talk to USDA people, talk to JY, always say, okay, USDA, well, first people want to use as many fibers as possible. So maximize the fiber use, right? And that is because this is a green material. But I think also we have to upgrade the fiber performance. If it's just green, I think it's hard to sell as a product, right? So my group actually been working on many different technologies over the years. So I think people talk about transparent wood. Orlando talked about transparent wood already. And back in 2016, and the last group and my group actually published this paper on transparent wood, and that has much better performance than the previous publication. So we really learn a lot and build on existing literature, and trying to, again, look at this whole thing again, see what we can do. For example, the densified wood. I mean, there are many even products on densified wood. But now if you look at this again, can we go even better? Can we get a tensile strength up to 2 gigapart, for example? Now we can get to 1.2 gigapart, 1.3 gigapart. At that time, we can get to 600 megapart. But what is the ultimate performance, right? What is the ultimate limit, right? So I think that is the kind of question we ask. And so I'm going to talk about pruning wood and foldable wood. And since Sheldon was talking about self-flow, and Orlando also mentioned a little bit about blackwood. And back in 2016, 17, we work a lot on wood as a water treatment device. So what does that mean is that you take the entire wood, you carbonize the surface. Actually, Tian Li now is a professor, a tenured professor at Purdue University now. She was actually, first project was all about one is the transparent wood, the other one was using wood as a water treatment device. And I was never be able to get any funding for water research. So I completely killed the direction in my group. But the idea is very simple. You take the wood and you mimic this flow idea in plants, but you have to carbonize the surface and make it very black. Right? So you see the surface is really black, and then you shine a light, which is the solar energy, and you basically evaporate the water, you generate the pressure difference, and that will basically self-flow the water. But I think Sheldon is now, I think it's very smart in way using this concept for wood treatment, in flowing chemicals to do the delignification. So I think that this is a very interesting field. There's a lot of knowledge over there, and I think Buckland always reminded me, read the literature. There's a lot of things actually out there. And there was many papers published like 50 years ago, yeah. And I think there are a lot of things we can do, but also there are a lot of tools we can use now. New tools like AI, imaging, nanotechnology, automation, all these things. I think that we're in a very interesting time now to really push this nano-engineered wood, or the wood material as an old material, but the new opportunities. now push all the way into the market to make an impact, to store the carbon in the building, but also, ride on the trend, for example, across the timber industry. So maybe now is the right time actually to actually make an impact. Yeah. So this is the spongy wood we make, and this is this guy now is a professor. He's published a lot of papers, like myself, like maybe 10 years ago. He's doing a great job in China now. And so with that, I would like to quickly talk about two topics. One is the superwood, and I think Jiaqi Dai from Yuan Wood will talk a little bit more from the commercial aspect, and I will basically give you a little bit history of how do I come to this point of doing the superwood. And now we'll talk about the cooling wood, as I mentioned very quickly. So I was funded by Air Force Lightweight Project. My first funding as a faculty at University of Maryland at the time. And the idea is how to basically come out with a lightweight structure material. And if you look at the cellulose nanofibers, all right, and in wood and paper, they have these amazing properties. For example, the tensile strength for the best part of the fiber is up to 7 gigapascals. And they are together through hydrogen bonding, right? So they are very different with plastics. The hydrogen bond is very weak. It's a secondary bond, right? So you can break individual bond very easily. But if you have a lot of them, and right, you have a three-dimensional network, if you add them all together, you can get this very high, mechanical properties, at least in one direction, right? And but if you look at wood and paper, the mechanical properties is about 10 to 30 megapascal. It's good enough for many applications, but it definitely cannot compete with carbon fiber, cannot compete with lightweight metals like steel. So this is actually my first grant. I was so excited at that time. I didn't know why I got this grant. I mean, I was focused on ion intercalation using battery approach to basically getting optoelectronic devices, but I couldn't get funding. A lot of physics actually working in that direction. But somehow when I read the proposal about the lightweight transparent paper, I get funded. So, and then I think that is the beginning of the whole thing. We have Dr. Zhihong Li, actually got training from ETA, KTH, joined my group at that time. So this basically shows you, if you make a piece of paper using smaller fibers, mechanical strength will actually enhance, right? You get a so-called smaller, stronger. But you don't lose the ductility. So that is very different with metals. Usually you increase one, you decrease the other. But here you not losing the ductility. So actually the toughness got increased as well. Yeah. So this is a very interesting. I know there's some debate about whether the hydrogen bonding is the main factor, but at least in terms of its toughness and the strength relationship are not sacrifice one or the other. So that's the, of course, at that time we were talking about the tensile strength of like 200 megapascal or 300 megapascal. But I think we'll talk about in the proposal, I said something like 1 gigapascal. Then we have to align the fibers, right? So how do we align them? Why do I propose 1 gigapascal? Because that's the number that you can get funded. So we propose a number and then we push the student to come up with ideas. So in this case, we have this random fiber network and we have to align them. If you work on carbon nanotubes, you have to work with alignment to maximize the fiber-fiber interaction. You can maximize the contact, so the secondary bond. So we take these long bacterial fibers, we soak it, we stretch it, and we can get to 1 gigapascal, right? So good. Then we prove to Air Force, we can make 1 gigapascal. Then question is that now how do we make a lot to make a structure for Air Force, right? So that time, to be honest, we're actually working on transparent wood. But I noticed a sample that the sample is actually very, very weird shape, but it's very strong. So we come to this side, and all of a sudden I feel like maybe this is the way to get the strength and get the scale. So obviously, the sample size is pretty big. So now if you look back, right, the wood is made of fibers, and your task is really to get the fibers together as much as you can, like all the fibers inside the entire structure, right? So if you treat it, you soften the wood, and you can densify them. You don't destroy the alignment. So basically, you get you're supposed to get it, right? And at that time, we can get to 600 megapascal in a Nature paper. And I think we definitely can repeat the data. Many groups actually repeat the data already. And so yesterday there was a paper, I think, talk about how many papers actually in Nature data can be reproduced. Yeah, so we definitely have reproduced this data a lot, and we can actually further improve the performance all the way to 1.2 gigabyte. And a lot of details going with that. And I had ARPA-E funding right after this project, and so that's really I really appreciate ARPA-E, and because ARPA-E fund the disruptive ideas. Otherwise, I don't know where to get the total up to almost $25 million from that one agency or one material. I'm very fortunate for that. We're grateful for ARPA-E funding as well. So these are some of the data, and I think I talked in different conferences as well. One of the highlights is that as we increase the tensile strength, we don't lose the ductility. But if you normalize by the weight, so we always say this material is as strong as steel, at least in one direction, but it's 6 times lighter. Right? So if you normalize by the density, you can actually have much better so-called specific mechanical strength. And if you look at the structures, all the way you have these fibers, of course, not apply surprising. One of the key is not to destroy those fibers here. So that's why JY mentioned today, you should not use acid for treat the wood because they will decrease the DP, degree of polymerization. So the longer the fiber, the better. So definitely don't destroy them. Try to get them close in contact so that you can maximize the performance for the fiber themselves, which is all the way up to 7 gigabyte. Our density right now is about 1.3 or 1.35, but the density of the fibers itself is up to 1.5, right? So you see there's a big gap there. That's why I predict myself, I was trying to work on this, that eventually we should be able to get to 2 gigabyte of a piece of bulk wood. So these are the property testing in different directions, and they are related to different applications, how to bend it, and bending test, compression in all 3 directions. And so they are more than the increase of the density, right? So the density of this wood is increased by 3 to 4 times. So if we don't do anything, if we don't get anything because of the hydrogen bonding, we should get a 4x performance increase, but we're getting more than 4 for many directions. So we are increasing the interactions between the fibers. It's not more than a simple geometrical effect. And the other beauty of this technology is that you can normalize, you can basically put everything into one material. You remove the differences, the variations of different wood species, because ultimately wood is made of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Of course, the DP is different, the lignin content and even rigidity is different, but after the treatment, they become somewhat roughly the same material. So we actually get to under 100. These are old data from my old slides, so this don't quote me on the price here. ARPA-E funding, we have CEO Alex Lowe here from Human Wood and Jiaqi here. So they at that time they came in, especially Alex came in and bring we need a cost share for the ARPA-E grant like application. We also need the viable team to convince DOE we can do the job. So Alex put a lot of effort to put the team together. We convinced DOE, and we're so fortunate to get this big grant. Now with DOE funding, we are actually having a plant in Maryland. And so if you guys have a question, Alex is here. Talk to him. And I think he has a lot to say, to share as well. And so material performance is one thing, shape is another thing, right? That's the difference between a desk and a chair, right? Because they are made of wood, but they have different functions because they have different shapes. So you can engineer shapes in the materials level. I always say that if you take the difference between wood and plastic or metal, the way to shape it is actually, for wood, you use water. For plastic and metal, you use temperature. Right, so when the temperature is above the glass transition temperature, you can mold plastics, at least for thermoplastics. But the same thing for wood. If with the right combination of the lignin and the water content, you can mold it to any way you want. And then, of course, you can fix it when you remove the water. And if you want to lock it forever, then you can do a further treatment, incorporating some of polymers here. So I think there are a lot of applications. Since we published the paper back in 2018, I'm still receiving emails until today. getting emails about using this for all kinds of even weird applications, like a music instrument, a baseball pad, a ping pong pad. The best ping pong pad company contacted me, the baseball teams. And of course, Emmanuel is taking the lead. They are much better. They have a professional team. And now with the material, they can really look into real applications and do collaborations with the real industry. So when people now come talk to me, I always guide them to talk to Alex and Jiaqi from Yuanwen. But you can also use your imagination. If we can really manufacture this material, if we can really get the tensile strength way beyond the regular wood, 600 to 1 gigapascal, right? Then you can really enable a lot of applications. Yeah. So the other thing is really about the thermal and optical. I will go very quickly. It's really about the cooling wood. So if you think about the building, I think Orlando already talked about that. Building. This conference is about the buildings. So right. So you can think about transparent wood. I have a project with Alan Dyson, a professor, a School of Architecture here. And the idea is how to use transparent wood and integrate them into building settings. More than just replacing glass. How about energy saving? How about some thermal comfort levels? Yeah, right. Making insulation forms and making this is something called a self-cooling wood that is white, very white, the whitest wood. I think Orlando talked about the blackest wood. In this case, it's the whitest wood, but it's also very black in the infrared range. So that can emit the heat in that range. We cannot see it, but it's completely black in the infrared. Right? So let me quickly go over this slides. The idea of the radiation cooling is that the Earth is, the universe is very hot, cold, but your house in the summer is very hot because you have this mismatch. You have the sunshine on your roof. If you don't have the super white roof, you're going to cook your house. But the roof temperature is about 300. Let's say room temperature, that is like 300 Kelvin, and the wavelength is about 10 microns, right? So in that wavelength range, the cloud atmosphere is actually transparent. Yeah. So that means you can dump the heat through the cloud all the way to the universe. So this is the real net negative energy output into the universe. You can really cool the entire universe. The Earth. Yeah, it's not a traditional air conditioning. You dump heat from inside the house outside. So overall, you don't dump any heat, from the Earth entire Earth system point of view. So this is the idea: making cooling wood that is as wide as possible for taking care of the visible range. I still remember I shared this photo to JY a long time ago. We cooked the wood. The wood is still a piece of wood. He was very surprised there. So this is very interesting. So it's very white, and but in the infrared range, it's very black. Why is that? Because they have a lot of vibrations, right? So in that molecular scale, so they absorb energy. So that is very high absorption. Is also high emissivity. So that is why this material is very, very black. Yeah. So if you integrate the visible whiteness that reflect the energy out, the body temperature blackness, they emit the energy out. So as a result, you get a net negative, is something called cooling, self-cooling. This is a concept that many people use it now for making cooling paint. First demonstrated by Stanford Professor Xianghui Fan. He had an APA project on that topic as well. So this material is also very strong. I think Orlando already mentioned that. And it's a structured material. So so I just give you these two examples. I think there are a lot of possibilities for the community to think about, and also work with a school of architecture people from there, and architects, and also forest people, forest management people, and this vertical integration concept, and to make an impact using engineered wood from nanoscale. So with that, I would like to acknowledge my funding and DARPA, APA-E, and NSF Air Force. Oh, I forgot to put Air Force here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We can take one or two questions, quick questions. I don't want to be behind between session and this lunch, but
We have
do
a
you
photo.
any
We have a photo taking after this. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
After the photo.
Yeah.
Any question? Yes, please.
I see this 1, 2 gigapascal very ambitious, but it means that the cellulose itself will get deformed by more than 50% of cellulose. Have you seen this kind of deformation directly? Because it's very easy.
Yeah, we made the bamboo fiber that is like a diameter is a couple of 100 micron, and we measure the tensile. You can go up to more than 2 gigapascal. So that's why I have this confidence one day we can make that leap.
That is displacement. That is changing crystal.
You mean?
Because it means that the crystal has to be stretched by 3% or something. If the cellulose, yes, you are deforming 3% of the modulus.
You mean when you talk about at the point when you break, right?
Yeah. Just stretch.
Yeah.
Look at diffraction. The diffraction rate should move a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. We can talk more.
Very simple experiment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question? All right. Thank you very much to Dr. Hu.
Okay, thank you. So I think now, sorry, we didn't have any break in the whole morning. I just realized that. So you might all be very tired, but take a quick break and then we have a photo taking outside.
Yeah, no, actually upstairs.
Upstairs, okay. And then followed by lunch. We'll come together at the 1 p.m., right?
Yes, coming together at 1 p.m. And thank you very much for the great talks today, actually. All of them are complementary, bright minds, great research. And I'd like to give one more time hand to all the speakers today.
Thank you.